I love Naples. I love Collier County. And over the course of my many years here, I've had the incredible experience to understand what makes us the best place in America to live. And let me tell you, it's not just our beaches. Far from it, actually. It's our people, and it's our partnerships. And none of it's happened by accident. I've seen it time and time again. The more people learn about what's happening in our community, the more they come to the realization, this is not happening where I come from. Collier is special. Collier is unique. That's why I'm bringing you Community Matters. Think of this as your Collier County 101. I'm your guide, introducing you to the people and the resources that I think that you should know through short, real conversations so that you feel more empowered and ready to engage in ways that will positively impact your life, your family, your careers, and this beautiful place that we get to call home. Because community matters. Hi, I'm Amanda Pearson and welcome to Community Matters. Today I am thrilled to have Tiffani Mensch, CEO of United Way of Collier and the Keys. So welcome. Thanks for being here today.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
We're excited. So I want to share just a few brief comments about you so our viewers can get to know you a little bit better. You are a little bit newer to Collier County.
Yes.
You have over 2 decades of nonprofit service, though, driven by a deep commitment to building resilient communities where every individual has the opportunity to thrive. Amen to that. Since June of 23, you've served as our president and CEO of United Way of Collier and the Keys, leading transformative work across both Monroe and Collier counties through strategic partnerships, disaster response, environmental initiatives, and targeted investments in financial stability, youth opportunities, healthy communities, and community resiliency. And of course, you serve on numerous boards and you currently contribute your expertise to local and national councils focused on cradle to career success, disaster response, and nonprofit resiliency. A lot of disaster response in there, by the way.
Yes, unfortunately needed.
Unfortunately, but we're glad to have you. So I will say, I did ask Eileen Connolly-Kiesler a lot of the similar questions that I'm going to ask you today, but I know that the responses are going to be completely different, right? But in my eyes, I see both of the organizations of United Way and Collier, or a community foundation, a United Way and a community foundation, having some similarities, but obviously very different. So I just want to share that in case some of our viewers are following along. So with that, I do want to start with what is a United Way? I was just sharing with you earlier, I remember that I went to a preschool that had some sort of connection with United Way because I remember seeing the hand sign as a little girl. So I think most people know that United Way is national and exists in most communities per se. So what are United Ways? What's our United Way and what makes us perhaps special and unique?
Yeah, great question. So United Ways are a global network. There are 1,100 United Ways around the world. We're all independently, locally governed by a board of directors. The money that we raise in our communities stay in our communities. And each of us are different. I heard Eileen Connolly-Kiesler talk about how if you know one community foundation, you know one community foundation. If you know one United Way, you know one United Way. And that is because we're so hyper-local. So even for us, we span Collier and Monroe counties, like you said, and the work that we do in Collier looks a little different than the work we do in Monroe and vice versa. But we truly exist across the world to unite people and resources to respond to community needs and create lasting change for a brighter future. What's better than that?
I love that. I love that. And I'm sure that you guys work with a lot of different data points to make those kinds of decisions on what our United Way is going to focus on. So what's some data perhaps that you guys work with and utilize to make decisions? And maybe what is some data that you think most people might not know about that they should?
So we are really lucky that we have access to ALICE data. We're part of a network through the United Way worldwide to get data specifically on folks who are asset limited, income constrained, and employed.
So that's ALICE. So people
that is ALICE.
Yeah.
That is the acronym for ALICE. And these are our neighbors. This is 43% of Collier County and 45% of Monroe County. These are hardworking folks, maybe working 2-3 jobs, still struggling every day to put food on the table and meet all of their basic needs. So they're working paycheck to paycheck. They're not making enough to have emergency savings or money for future education expenses, vacations, retirement, all these different things. Truly, they're just struggling to get by every day, and every dollar goes to meeting that survival budget. Here in Collier County, a family of 4 needs to make over $90,000 a year just to survive. And that is 2 adults and 2 children. And that's 2 children that are not in childcare. You can add about $10,000 more plus if those children are in childcare. That's actually also 2023 numbers, because the data that we get is on a 2-year delay. So we can confidently say that in 2025, the cost of living is well over $100,000 a year for a family of 4. It's important for us to know that, one, to talk about the need in our community, because, I don't think it's as easy to see here in Collier County, right? I've lived in a lot of different places, cities and suburbs and small towns, and I think it's easier to see the need in other cities. You see unhoused folks on the side of the road. You see you see poverty in other places. And I think you can see it here if you look, but it's a little more hidden. And so being able to say, actually, 43% of people in Collier County struggle every day to meet their basic needs. Those aren't people necessarily that live on the street or, aren't working. These are hardworking folks that still, can't make enough to make ends meet. And so this data, I will say, is an important data set because nonprofits are starting to use it as the sort of qualifier for their social services, for who they can provide their services to. And it's an update from the FPL, the Federal Poverty Line, that is an antiquated system that was started in the 1960s to sort of determine who is allowed to access public assistance. And that is still the same as it was in the 60s. So if you look at the Federal Poverty Line, for a family of 4, you can make $31,200 to be at that federal poverty line or below. Alice, like I said, is almost $100,000. So that gap, which is called the benefits cliff, is so important for us to know and for us to communicate to folks that, there is this huge group of folks between the federal poverty line and people that are thriving that need support.
Absolutely. I've, it makes me think of 2 follow-up questions. So that's a big number. I actually didn't realize that we were that close to 50%. Yeah. I'm not surprised. And I suppose a comment that these are hardworking people, and I also see them, the reality of it is they're an integral part of our community, 100%. Right? So I think if someone's thinking to themselves listening right now, well, I don't fall in that category, I'm good. Or, yeah, I should care, but I'm busy, I'm doing other things in my life. Life in Collier County is impacted greatly. Our quality of life is impacted by that 43%'s quality of life.
Exactly.
And so none of these pieces all of these pieces work together. Mm-hmm. So I just hope people understand that it's something that everybody should care about if they want to continue living in paradise. It's all of our responsibility.
Yeah, I couldn't have said it better myself. These folks are the backbone of our community. They allow us to have the quality of life that we have, and they should be allowed that quality of life as well.
Absolutely. So what... I'm not sure if so we said $100,000. What do you think it will require to live as a family of 4? What do you think people actually in reality are making?
Well, there is a study that shows that 70% of jobs in Florida pay $20 an hour or less. That's I just did the math the other day. So if 2 adults are working full time at $20 an hour, that's not even close to $100,000. Now, hopefully they're making more than $20 an hour, but, if 70% of the jobs pay that, then we are, can make a pretty good assumption that the majority of folks here are.
So going off script here, how do we fix that?
How do we fix that? Well, we talk about it first, right? We educate, we collaborate. Yeah. We can't do this work alone. It's why we fund 40 nonprofits through our community investment grants, because we know that these problems aren't happening in a vacuum, and these kinds of problems, these sort of chaotic and complicated problems require collaborative solutions. Yeah. And so being able to partner with our nonprofit agencies that we support, with the Community Foundation, with the Schultz Foundation, with NCEF, all of the amazing foundations and nonprofits in Collier County, the 400 plus of them, right? And if we can get on the same page, understanding what those needs are and work together to actually find solutions to root causes rather than just continuing to put Band-Aids on these problems is going to be key. And it really does start with having the conversations.
Thank you for that. So how about some specific projects that United Way has going on right now? What are some projects that maybe you're most proud of, or what are some projects that you wish more people knew about?
Well, like I said, United Ways are hyper-local, and so we do different things here than we do in Monroe County. And I won't talk too much about Monroe County in this podcast, but I will say that we're the only United Way in the world with a marine biologist on staff, as far as I know. So that's a fun fact. We do some coral restoration and marine science education work down there. But here in Collier County, we've been very focused on disaster relief, like we talked about earlier. Unfortunately, that is a constant in the area in which we live. So we, as a United Way, have been so deeply embedded in that work since 2017 with Hurricane Irma. And the work that we do has changed a little different just based on the needs of the community and the gaps that we're filling. So we were at one point doing disaster case management. And now we've really shifted our focus with support from the Collier Community Foundation to support volunteer or disaster volunteerism.
Perfect.
So we've created a volunteer reception center that will be activated post-storm to help register, mobilize, and deploy volunteers in the event of a man-made or natural disaster. So obviously we've been focusing a lot on what to do in the event of a hurricane, but we do exist for other disasters as well. We've spent a lot of time the past year sort of building out a manual and all of the different processes and procedures that go along with mobilizing volunteers, keeping everyone safe, and building out like the software to make sure we notify people, working with the nonprofits to input their volunteer opportunities before the storm. They know what they need, right, to an extent into the system so that we are ready to go when a disaster strikes.
That is so huge because we have lived through so many hurricanes, and I have been actively, involved in the beginning, back to something like Irma, where you have all of these well-meaning good people that want to make a difference, and we're clunky. We show up, everyone's showing up with bottles of water and food at the same location, and then it's too much. And so we need to figure out ways to coordinate and work better. And, instead of having people contact an individual to find out how to volunteer, or looking on social media at various people's, here's what you can do. We all need to get collectively organized through United Way for volunteerism and through Community Foundation in so many ways to say, here's how we're going to handle it. Those are your first two places to go to. So I'm so excited about that.
Yeah, there are so many people in our community that want to help. They just don't know how. And like you said, you'll get a huge group of people showing up somewhere where maybe they won't make the biggest difference, right? So how can we sort of mitigate that and manage those folks so that we can place them in the places where they can mostly make the biggest impact?
Right. And I think too, it helps because you're, as community foundations and United Ways, you've got vetted opportunities. You can say that this is legitimate, and that makes people feel safe too if they want to get engaged. So I'm just so thrilled about that. But this actually leads to the next thing that I'm extremely excited about, which is the Volunteer Center. Again, I have a lot of people in my life that will come to me saying, I'd like to know how to engage more. I want to volunteer. And it's an impossible question to have an individual fully respond to and support. And so, I've talked previously in a different episode about the Community Foundation's nonprofit directory. Great place to learn about hundreds of nonprofits doing work. What's their mission? Sort it by, what it is they're focused on, environment, education, veterans, so on and so forth. But then it's like the volunteer aspect of that. And you have an incredible volunteer center that I think everybody needs to know about and engage with. So can you share a little bit more about that?
Definitely. Yeah, thank you. So when I started here in this role as CEO a couple of years ago, I went on the CEO listening tour, right, to get to understand the needs of the community and just get to know our partners and collaborators. And it kept coming up that there was a need for volunteer mobilization, for a hub for volunteerism in this county. And so I came from a United Way up in Tennessee that had a really strong volunteer center, and I thought we could do that. So we did. We purchased a platform. So it's sort of a virtual center, volunteeruwck.org. You can go on it, and as a community member, you can search all the different volunteer opportunities on there. And as a nonprofit, you can go in there, create an account, upload all of your volunteer opportunities. And I think it's going to give them a really easy way. It's going to give nonprofits a really easy way to sort of manage their opportunities, manage volunteer hours and that type of thing. Because one thing I learned on that listening tour was that people don't have great mechanisms to sort of manage their volunteers, a lot of spreadsheets going on. And so we wanted to give them a better option for that. And then for volunteers, I kept hearing, well, I don't really even know, like you said, how to get involved. I can look at the list on the Community Foundation's website. I can Google it. So having that local one-stop shop for volunteers to search for opportunities has been a game changer. And we've gotten a lot of great feedback. We're still looking for more volunteers to create profiles, more nonprofits to input their opportunities into the system. But we hope that it's a great way to get individuals involved, students, corporate groups, employee volunteerism and corporate social responsibility initiatives, all these different ways to get people to connect with their community.
Celebrating. I just love all of this so much. It's been so needed, and I truly thank you for doing that. I know it was a labor of love, and we're just, so if you're listening today and you want to get more engaged in the community, go to United Way's website and create a profile. Everybody create a profile. And then if you're a nonprofit and you're looking for volunteers, create a profile, and let's get this going. So that's very exciting. So people, we talked about volunteering, but what about with United Way specifically? If there's someone who says, well, I'd like to get more involved with United Way specifically, how can they do that?
Great question. It's very easy, simple as our motto, which is give, advocate, and volunteer. So one, obviously people can give to our United Way. They can give to specific programs that we run internally. And I will say briefly, I think people think of United Ways still sometimes as that traditional pass-through organization where they're giving money to us and then we give it out to local nonprofits. And we still do that, but we're a hybrid organization now. So we're doing that, plus we are operating our own internal programs to meet community needs and fill gaps. So people can give all those different ways. They can give to our programs, they can give to our community investment grant process. So there's lots of ways to give and get involved. We just started a Women United affinity group, which is a group of, I think, 86 women now that meet monthly for networking, volunteer opportunities, all sorts of different things, women leaders in the community that are coming together to support their neighbors, which is really exciting.
I love that. I'll be joining.
Yeah, please. Yes, you have to. And then advocate, sign up for our newsletter on our website, check out our social media, learn about the work that we're doing, and tell your friends. It's all about word of mouth, right? We got to get the message out there. And then obviously volunteer, like we talked about. The best thing to do is to join volunteeruwck.org to see all the different opportunities that are available.
Well, thank you so much for all of this. I know I'm going to be taking up some of your calls to action.
Thank you.
And just thank you for all of your work that you're doing in the community. You're so very appreciated. You've done amazing things.
Thank you. Well, we appreciate you too. And thank you for talking about this work and getting the word out and advocating for all of us.
Absolutely. It's my favorite thing to do. So thanks so much. And for those listening today, I hope that you'll find a way to engage because community matters.